friends. So let's be realistic here. Almost every adult has some kind of baggage. Sometimes it is small and not a big deal. Sometimes it is gargantuan and heavy. Sometimes we carry it around by choice. Sometimes we don't, but either way, it's there and we have to carry it. But sometimes we make things harder on ourselves by carrying around extra stuff that we really should have let go of a long time ago. Things like situations and people that we have outgrown, guilt about our mistakes or other things from the past, self-sabotaging behaviors, resentments, grudges. Hell, sometimes we carry around baggage that isn't even ours in the first place, like shame over things others did, over which we had no control. And if your lot in life, so to speak, was just to carry this stuff around without it affecting anything else, that's one thing. But that is seldom ever the case, because the baggage pretty much goes everywhere that we go. And as such, when we enter into relationships of any kind with other people, we bring that baggage along, because of course we do. Sometimes we carry that baggage around for so long that it seemingly becomes a part of us. Some of this is actually not that big of a deal. It's fairly harmless stuff in those bags, and it mostly doesn't get in the way of forming healthy, fulfilling connections with other people. But some of it, some of it is so heavy that it not only weighs you down, but it becomes this big, huge obstacle between you and that person that you are in a relationship or even a close friendship with. Carrying it around is tiring, too, for everyone, including you. So then what? Do you keep lugging it around until your arms give out and it crushes you? Do you keep putting the onus on your friends or your partner, asking them to carry a bag or two that they didn't pack, so to speak? Or do you open the suitcases one by one and start lightening up that load by dealing with the things that you have in those bags? The correct answer here is kind of obvious, because it's the one that makes the most sense. But this is definitely one of those things that is way easier said than done. Trust me, I know. But friends, when exactly is working on yourself easy? Almost never, right? But you have to keep in mind that when you know something is not what you want, not where you want to be, and you still aren't changing it, well, then you're choosing it. Here's a good example of what I mean. There are plenty of times when we know full well that something or someone is not good for us. So we break that tie in some way. Maybe we walk away from it. But instead of just moving forward, sometimes we keep looking back at it anyway. Sort of like that weird ex who rejects you but then keeps driving by your house real slow. When you have the courage to walk away from situations that don't serve you, you have to ask, did you really walk away? Or are you still kind of halfway there, where you're still checking on that person all the time, still asking about them, still reading old texts and looking at old photos, whatever it is that you do? It's almost like running a 10-mile race and then quitting at the last 200 feet. You probably wouldn't do that, right? So then why would you do this? Continue to let things that you have already told yourself you don't want or need in your life hang around in here rent-free, even if it's just a little tiny corner of it. And look, there is no shame in this game. Everyone does it. Sometimes you do it for pretty benign reasons. I mean, maybe you are checking because you have some regrets about things that you might have done to contribute to that break in the bond. Or hell, maybe you're just nosy or curious, and there's nothing wrong with that either. I think everyone feels that way sometimes. It's perfectly normal to be curious about what someone that you used to know really well is up to these days, even when you don't have the greatest of feelings towards them. But when we keep doing it, when it becomes a habit, or hell, even an obsession, what the hell are we doing when we keep doing this? Are we lightening our load? Are we unpacking the baggage associated with that person or situation? Or are we actually making that baggage heavier? I will admit that I have definitely struggled with this issue in the past, but I came up with a really good analogy that helped me kick that habit, so to speak, and I'll share it with you too, and maybe you'll find it useful. I look at mental baggage the same way I do a bag of actual trash. When it needs to go out, it needs to go out. So out it goes. I walk it to the curb, and then I turn around and walk back in my house. I don't wonder how it's doing. I don't walk back down the driveway to take a peek in the can to see if it's still there. I don't think about it at all because it's, well, trash. I threw it out because I didn't need it and I didn't want it anymore. The same goes when you donate something to charity, right? You don't roll up to Goodwill or wherever and drop off your stuff and then hang out in the parking lot to wait and see what happens or who buys it, right? I mean, I hope you don't. All of this is choosing to hang on to your baggage in a way. When you make a commitment to break a habit or walk away from a person or situation that you know isn't good for you. Don't cheat yourself like that. Don't keep inviting those things that you already got rid of because you are only prolonging your own healing when you do. Stop standing outside that window with a boombox like John Cusack in the movie Say Anything, hoping that whatever or whoever you just removed from your life comes to the window. That is only going to drag you backwards, even if you don't realize that is what you're doing. So, as we said before, when you enter into relationships with other people, whether it be a close friendship or romantic relationship or whatever, you do tend to bring that baggage with you, good or bad, right? Which, of course, you bring everything else that makes up you and who you are. So while you might not have planned to pack up your insecurities or your fear of abandonment, your trust issues, or your bad habits like selfishness or anything else, along with your toothbrush and your rubber band collection and that concert t-shirt that you've had since the 90s, but they snuck in the box anyway. And truthfully, sometimes it's not that big of a deal. The baggage that you pack up like that doesn't become that much more heavy. But the bags that do contain the things that we just mentioned, the insecurities, the trust issues, etc., those are definitely a big deal. Theirs are big, heavy bags. There's good news and bad news there. The good news is you usually are aware that you have this baggage. The bad news, it can be very, very difficult to put it down, even when you feel like you are in a safe space with safe people. The thing is, though, that heavy baggage, like fear of abandonment and trust issues and insecurities, they aren't just going to unpack themselves. I mean, no suitcases do, either literally or figuratively. And what happens when you don't unpack a suitcase? Eventually, you're going to trip on it. It's going to be in your way. But instead of being in the way of you getting to your dresser or your closet door, these bags are getting in the way of something that is much more important. Healthy, authentic connections with other people. Feeling fulfilled. Having joy in your life and a healthy sense of confidence. So there's really only one option here, right? You've got to unpack those bags. Sort out what's in them. If there's one in particular that you are just completely sick and tired of, throw the whole thing right in the nearest dumpster. You don't have to do it all in one day. In fact, you probably shouldn't. You also don't have to do it alone. Somebody who really loves you will be willing to help you unpack if you let them. That, if you let them, part of this sentence is the most important, because sometimes we don't do that. The baggage we are carrying from past mistakes and betrayals and terrible relationships and whatever else is so large and so heavy that we cannot see anything beyond it. That is especially true when it comes to romantic relationships. So when we're carrying that around and then we then find ourselves in a relationship that's healthy, we might think, oh, that's too good to be true. Healthy love doesn't exist, or worse, we think that we don't deserve to have it. All of that is BS. Healthy love absolutely does exist, and everyone deserves to have it. The problem is that sometimes we look for it in the wrong way. We stand behind that giant suitcase with one eye closed. Some look for it while wearing our victim outfit and wearing completely blacked out glasses so that all we see is darkness. Of course you're not going to find it that way. We have to learn to trust enough so that we can take off those glasses and see things around you in their actual colors, not the ones that that victim cloak is telling you that they are. So, one more time for the people in the back, the most important part of that statement: we have to trust. And speaking of trust and trust issues, because those are usually right on top of people's baggage, am I right? We generally think that trust issues are something that we have when we have suffered a wrong or betrayal that is perpetrated by someone else. But there is more to them than that in most cases. For every ounce of distrust that you have for someone else, you usually have the equal amount of distrust for yourself, even if you aren't aware of it. Yes, that is what I said. You don't trust other people, that's for damn sure. But a huge part of those trust issues is that you also don't trust yourself either. You don't trust yourself to make different and better choices that will get you better results. You don't trust yourself to choose what is best for you, period. You don't trust yourself to not allow yourself to be manipulated into making bad decisions. You don't trust your own convictions and boundaries enough to not have them be swayed by others who might not have good intentions. Not trusting yourself enough is the number one reason why we keep carrying baggage around. Because that baggage is the devil you know, and we always see that as the option with the least risk in our internal narrative. There's the first assignment of the exercise that is unpacking your baggage, by the way. Work on trusting yourself again. When you do that, the rest of the job gets a lot easier to do, I promise. Trust me on that one. So, once you have started to trust yourself again, how do you get started unpacking? What do you do when your baggage comes along rearing its ugly ass head? And I say ugly because, look, our baggage usually doesn't show up in some designer rolling suitcase with solid gold locks and a personal attendant who carries it around for you. Oh no. It is a ratchet-ass looking bag that you bought from a TJ Maxx fire sale in 2008, and it's got a wheel that's about to fall off, making it even more of a pain to carry around. The answer? You unpack it in whatever way is most comfortable, and with whomever feels most comfortable to do it with. For some, that means you just do it alone, and that is 100% totally fine too. If you can dump the whole thing on the bed and sort it all out, go for it. If you unpack and put away just one thing, then do that. Direction is always more important than speed, friends. Always. There is no right or wrong way to process the things that are burdening you and stopping you from living the life that you want, as long as you do, in fact, process them. And all you have to do is start. Start by identifying the beliefs and the limiting mindsets and that negative self-talk that is making your load so damn heavy. And replace that with something positive and lighter. Forgive yourself for your mistakes. Give yourself grace. Learn from the things that happened around you and understand that they probably happened more for you and less to you. And you can start all of it by doing just that. Starting. Remember that ignoring your baggage does not make it go away. Pretending your trauma and your pain didn't happen doesn't make you a survivor. Working through those things does. That's how you take away their power, and that's how you finally empty the heaviest of suitcases for good and stop letting them get in the way. That's all I've got for you this week. I'll be back next week with another priority message. Until then, take good care of yourselves. Bye.